People, quick one, really quick one. Now, you know, like Arsenal, again, it's difficult to shop in the Premier League because, you know, there are some players I think's decent. Like, I'm a big fan of Richarlison and Zaha, but if I ever wanted them, I'm probably paying over 100 million for both of them. Is that value for money? Potentially not. You get it, people, you know. Every English club gets swindled to some degree, whether they buy from English competitors or go abroad, but you all know there's a premium. Now, Norwich sporting director said the bidding war for their club's best young talents this summer starts at 20 mil each. He has said, "We are difficult to negotiate with when we are selling. We hold all our cards on our young players. Not many of them have less than 3 years left on their contracts. They owe us, we owe them. They are homegrown and the British players cost more. That is almost a Premier League tax these days. We are very fortunate we have a few of them. I'm sure there will also be interest in our younger ones." And yeah, man, I mean, I don't think they owe the club anything, because at the end of the day, they're there because of their ability. They were all scouted and identified because of their ability and their need to improve. They all did their bit to get the team into the Premier League, and they've all did their bit to experience the Premier League. So I don't really think he owes them anything. Of course, Norwich have given them the opportunity and trained them. I don't think either people owe anyone anything. This is just, it's a mutual partnership. You know, the footballers are good footballers. That's why they're at your club. You need them. But he is right, you know, they hold all the cases. They've got the players tied down. You know, like you can imagine with relegated side, there's a lot of chopping and changing and cost cutting and things needed to be done. So it's in their interest to keep the bulk of their side together and probably introduce the likes of Josh Martin, who's been getting minutes, their young striker Adam Ida, I can't say his name, and maybe some other talents brought in or sourced from their academy. And 20 million is obviously of interest because Max Aarons, you know, just because it opens at 20 million doesn't mean that, because a lot of their players, a couple of their players, you know, all their British players could get Premier League moves, you know, in my opinion. And obviously Bendir is not English, but he can get a Prem move or a move to a top division elsewhere, which he probably will do. For Arsenal, obviously, we've got Cedric Suarez, Maitland and Bellerin. Bellerin's been linked with moves, and I do think people overrate Max Aarons. He's got a lot to learn. But of course, I would entertain the prospects of Max Aarons. For me, Ben Godfrey is probably more needed because he's a centre-half. I do think there's rawness in his game, but I do think he's a player that could be coached and played to a higher level. And if you could get him for 20, 30 million, being British, where really he should cost 50, whether he's worth that or not, he might not be the answer, but it could be decent. Like, if you could get Saliba and him, all I'm saying is I have more confidence in a Saliba and Ben Godfrey partnership than potentially the back three we've currently got, or any pairing of David Luiz and Mustafi with anyone. Like I said, give credit to them for their form, but they're always going to make mistakes. And Ben Godfrey, like I said, he could be coached. He's not perfect. You look at a lot of the Norwich goals, collectively the whole team is defending poorly. But, you know, I definitely would like Ben Godfrey to be my priority because he's a centre-half, and I'm not too sure if we're going to get a centre-half. Max Aarons, of course, they all provide resale value. Cantwell would offer something in our team. Might not be the match winner, but would give us some depth and stuff like that. Jamal Lewis, I believe, the left-back, he's one that could probably benefit from staying, but could easily get a move somewhere. So it is something I would like to see us do, man, really and truly. But in terms of how we make money, I'm not too sure, because like I said in the previous vid, without talking about the obvious, the Mkhitaryan's, the El Nenes and these men that need to be moved off, Balogun could bring in 5 or 10, whether I want him to go or not, just because he seems to be going. Guendouzi's linked with 40. I think Torreira's probably available for the club for about 40. Lacazette might be allowed to go for 30, 40. Martinez, he's contracted until 2022. When Leno comes back, does he want to warm the bench? That's someone that could probably bring in a 15. There are funds that we could, whether I want to sell these lot or not, there are funds we can make that could be used to go elsewhere. And for me, it's all about the resale value that Ben Godfrey and Max Aarons and these people come with. And the fact that they could be taught, like they tie in with what we've got, really and truly. Like I said, Ben Godfrey in particular, because I look at our centre-halves, genuinely, our centre-half options keep me up at night, people. I'm generally not happy with our centre-half options. I'm a big fan of Holding. You don't know me, I've said Holding, and I still believe it. Holding on form, he could get into England squad. I'm not saying start, but could get on the radar of Southgate, because Michael Keane has. He makes these shouts look silly. Obviously, he's had the injury, but he's looking woeful. Mustafi, Socrates, Luiz, Kolasinac in that role, these men will play good, and they're not terrible players, and they're not playing terrible every week. But when it matters, they'll let you down 4, 5, 6 times a season, and they all add up. Like, I look at our centre-half targets. I mean, people, beyond Saliba coming next season, and while I discount the fact he's young, I've got hope in him because he looks like a decent defender, and I'm a fan of Holding. But the existing options, none of them really scream convincing to me. None of them, and I don't know if Arteta's using them through necessity, which I believe, but the way he talks of the players concerns me, because I think he's bigging them up and being smart because the season's not done. But you do get the belief that he's going to have to run with them, really and truly. And his faith in some of these players might cost him here. But at the same time, how can I really say that when it's all about above him? If he's not being brought in players, he has to work with what he's got. And again, every game, especially when we lose, like in the manner to Spurs and the way we've been losing, dropping points in the last 25 minutes of games, dropping 21 points all season from winning positions, 15 under Arteta, you know, only winning 1 out of 10 where the opposition has scored. When I look at all of these things, he needs to be helped by those abroad sourcing in players that are competent. They don't have to be perfect, but they do have to give him a better base to work with, quite simply, which I don't believe none of these players that we currently have on our books are affording him that luxury of, people. So we'll have to see, people, but I definitely would entertain the idea of such people, of bringing in Ben Godfrey in particular and looking at these Norwich men. But I would also like Leo's, Gabriel. There's a couple of centre-halves. Of course I would like the Upamecano's, even though he's not perfect, but ideally I'd like scouts to do their job. Find someone for 15-20 mil that's 26 years of age that doesn't have a profile and learn, because before they get to these levels, you see what I'm saying, people? Like Harry Maguire hasn't been perfect, but if we had him, we'd be a bit better. So do you get what I'm saying? It's not the best example, but at a time he was at Hull or Sheffield for a couple of million. So there must be little options that we can do. Again, terrible example, but you get my point of, you know, if scouts can do their job, they can help us. Or if we could be a bit smart in the market, we can get a competent team. I think when Godfrey wouldn't be perfect, but would be a better option than some of these options and would give us something decent. So we'll have to see what happens in that regards. But for now, you lot know me, people. It's always a pleasure speaking to you guys, but I got to keep it moving. Deluded, I'm out.